BIC podcast number 90. We have been able to find the dead body of Eric. He was brutally murdered, but we resurrected him through some dark magic. Fortunately, Brandon knows the guy. So we've got that going for us. We'll see how he manages and how he hangs in there. You know, it's a little rough around the edges being buried alive and, you know, things thrown on top of him. It's a lot, man. It was a lot. Basically, watch the plot of like Dark Man, and that's basically what happened, more or less. There's a callback, a very cult movie, if you can look that one up. But anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit about Fanatics Fest because that is the topic du jour. Although I want to kind of use the branch off into a couple of little subtopics because there's some other things that I've noticed that have definitely come into play. We also got some good feedback from the last episode, so we'll talk about that. And we've got our latest silly cards. But the interesting thing about it is that we may have had our closest race yet in this last silly cards one. So we'll talk more about that and more on this episode of the BIC podcast. So other than your obvious attempt to try to get away from making all your bots so that you can get all the Will Levis number 8, the scent of greatness, which is really what we know what happened, Eric, despite your attempts to lie to us and tell us otherwise, what's going
on? I have been ill. I got yet another battle of bronchitis. I tend to get those a few times a year. And I've been dealing with that for a week, but I'm back on my feet. But Friday, it just wasn't going to happen.
Yes, indeed.
Is it?
And alas, it was difficult, but we managed somehow. Brandon chipped in. We had Andy, She Blind Me Refractors came in. We had the Burrell, Brad from Location Fanatics. We had two people from Fanatics with live reports. We had Brad and we had Neo Cards and Comics who joined us for a bit as well to give us some feedback. It was actually worked out quite well, all things considered.
And everyone was just so kind with their words about me not being there on the show. In the chat, a lot of
Zach really was missing you.
A lot of kindness, a lot of really nice things said and written. Yeah,
I really like to feel like Brandon. I feel like they really emphasized and really played out the hashtag Men of Peace. I feel like there was a lot of peace.
There was a lot of sorrow, a lot of solemnness. Yeah, there was a lot of heartache.
Would you describe it as a lot of
a touch of that mixed with concern?
Absolutely.
I think there was some genuine cackle concern. I even represented Eric in honor of the greatest scent known to man. I had just random. It was like a thing of fate. I had a Tennessee Titans hat sitting somehow with my Dallas Stars hat.
Yes.
And I grabbed it to show the appreciation for the franchise and the fragrance in your honor, knowing that you weren't going to be able to attend. We knew you were busy. I do want to know, is it bronchitis or could it be Beckettitis? Because
I don't know what you're talking
could the hat have been diseased?
That's what I was thinking.
Did you spray down the hat before you put it on, Eric? Did you think about that?
You know, now that you mention it, it very well could have been sabotaged.
Turned out that hat was actually white and it's mildew. That black is completely different. It's completely taken over the whole hat. It's actually very concerning.
I think I purchased this from Beckett directly, and they knew it was me, and they were like,
alas, they did not use Beckett shielded.
Warfare.
It was not shielded.
No, it was not Beckett shielded.
No.
Nope. If it had been Beckett shielded, this would not have happened. I'm just throwing it out there. All right. I want to touch on a couple different things. So let me start off here. I'll go through a couple of quick little segments. So we're trying to build a little structure into the beginning of the show. We've got a couple of topics we'll touch on, but let me build a little structure. I want to acknowledge last episode because we did do a live episode and it was a lot of fun. We actually had a really good time with it. And we did get some comments on it as well. So I want to acknowledge a few of those. Bob Boozle made a very valid point here. because there was a missed opportunity. He even gave a timestamp on us, which I really appreciate. Eric missed a perfectly good opportunity to say "Holy cow" at 7:09, which is true. That was in reflection to the silly cards last week. There was a missed opportunity to say "Holy cow." So Bob Boozle is bang on that one. That is a fact.
That is true.
Make sure I said. I wanted to make sure I cover that. We had Omega here, was one of the commenters as well. Omega SCC77. Again, the way YouTube shows it here is a little weird inside of the, but apologies, but that's what I'm seeing on this end. So it was asking, are we not missing the point here? As soon as a customer of this company, in terms of the scanning with the CT scanners, resells a scanned product that does not disclose it has been scanned, are they not committing fraud and breaking the law? So basically, I followed up with it. I said, we did touch on that, actually. And also, in addition to it, here's the problem. And just so that we're not going to spend more time on the CT scanning thing, I promise. I just want to quickly acknowledge this comment. The point, though, is, look, if somebody's really doing this for shifty purposes, the thing is they're not going to tell you. And they're not going to make it obvious they did it. The problem is that until you have the ability to be able to tell, if somebody scans it, that's the reason why it can be concerning for some of these products. Until you can tell that it's been scanned, it just looks like an unopened box, like any other unopened box. So that's the issue. The issue is if somebody does this, they're not going to tell you. And there's no evidence that you can see at the moment, given the way things are, that can immediately tell you that that is the case. So how would you know? So how would you know something fraudulent occurred? And also, very important point that I wanted to make, and I talked about it a lot during that discussion as well. The issue here isn't like pack switching or switching cards out or doing all these things. The issue is that you're finding out the contents of the cards are not the big hit, but you're otherwise leaving the box intact. So the box is actually whatever it is the manufacturer packed out. This just means it's not as good as like the good hit, but otherwise the box will have what it's supposed to have in it. This isn't like the Logan Paul case thing where you get the G.I. Joe cards where you're supposed to get Pokemon cards. No, in this case, you will get Pokemon cards, so to speak. You will get what you were in theory supposed to get, and it will not be changed. The order will not be changed. Nothing will change except for the fact that they knew what was in it and said, this is not the good one. So here you go. You can have that. That's the problem. That's the underlying issue.
But what if you tried to scan, a pack of, what is it, 86 Flair to find Jordan rookies, and in the pack, all the players have the last name of Johnson?
Then you have
It
to
has
open
happened
that at
before.
the National Live
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
on
Okay.
stage.
This has been an issue before. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So last comment here from the last one. Again, we always appreciate the comments. Thank you for the engagement. Bob Jackson was saying, so what allegedly amounts to high-tech pack searching. Yes. Surprised there isn't more outrage over it. I'm not outraged. But there isn't much the average collector can do about it at this point, which is valid. Makes you really wonder what's been using this service prior to the video being made. So that was kind of the point I was making. By the time you're seeing it and it's being advertised and publicized, like it's been in effect. And again, the Golden Touch shows you that, scanning things, collectibles, to try to find out has been going on because they knew to do it. When they were trying to figure out if the iPhone was proper, if it had the correct contents in it, they went to go get it scanned. And I gave you guys the example on the thing where I gave you the link to a company that had been doing stuff since the 90s. And they included X-rays and CT scanning as part of the technologies they employ in order to basically, for their purposes, it's authentication. It's for memorabilia and antique authentication. So it serves a diagnostic purpose for you to make sure the thing is real. In the case of the Golden Touch, the reason they used it is because, well, you don't want someone to reseal a box that does not have an iPhone in it because you're paying a premium for this item that's supposed to be sealed. Well, the scanner can tell you that it has the right components. And if it has the right components and the right sequencing, then you know it's legit without disturbing the box. So for the buyer, it's a good thing because then they're actually getting what they're supposed to be getting.
And just ignore that it says Nokia.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is that this is the use of technology for one of its applications. The problem is with almost everything. You can use it for good or for evil. It just depends on who decides to use it and when they decide to employ it. That's kind of the issue. I do tend to skew evil, but allegedly. Just man of peace. Just throwing it out there. But thank you all for the comments. I do appreciate that. Second thing I want to touch on here from our last silly cards segment, and we'll show off some new cards this week. We had our closest vote yet. This is very exciting. We had 28 votes, so I want to thank you for that. So this week, when we do it again, we will once again make a community post so you can check it out, and we'll get the images and everything up. So the Not So Well Fella Mermaid received 18% of the popular vote. I do appreciate the support here, but the Rex Hudler and Eric's favorite Reggie card, the difference between the two was 4%. It was a 4% difference. So the final total here after 28 votes, 43-39. The Rex Huddler by a hair, by the slightest hair. It was
Cow
close.
by an
man.
udder.
Yes.
Well,
the Leprechaun did not quite get there, but the Leprechaun had strong support, really strong support. Maybe Eric, you should ask for a recount in Florida. Like it was close. It's
I
tight.
want to see if there's any hanging chads.
Well, this is the third week we've had the vote, and I have to say, thank you to all of the voters and the support. There has been justice for Troy Dan because I really thought Troy Dan was my best overall
Yeah,
pick,
absolutely.
and he was.
Troy Dan got screwed. Like Troy Dan got screwed big. Like we were all in agreement that Troy Dan was the play that week.
Oh yeah, there was definitely some hanging chads on that one.
But this last week, I thought that one of you guys had it. I liked both of your picks, but thanks to I'm going to say right now before showing any cards this week, my choices this week are on a personal level, so I don't know that they are going to be as fun and crazy for the viewers to vote on, but there's personal reasons.
All right, seems fair. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say that in this week, we're going to have the silly card is going to be sponsored by AMG Collectibles, AMGcollectibles.ca, and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. They're sponsoring the entire podcast, but I figure since we're about to go into the segment, why not? We'll go into it. You can get silly cards, serious cards, and everything in between. And if you go to the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel, you can check out myself and the collector, the scallops collector, the people. And from what we understand, Sherry will be there and she'll be able to give her perspective on the Fanatics Fest, which we'll be talking about here in a minute. But at the same time, it'll be interesting to get her perspective of it because, again, she was at the National and Fanatics Fest. So we'll be able to get a little compare and contrast between the two different events and kind of what they brought to the table. From what I understand, they enjoyed themselves. But again, we'll talk about that when we get to the last segment for the big piece about the differences. You got to make sure you compare and contrast the differences because they're not meant to be the same thing. But check it out. Links in the description as always. We thank AMG Collectibles for supporting the podcast and the channel. All right. So as far as the silly cards, we're going to have a little fun with it. So do you guys, one of you guys want to go first, or do you want me to show off my card? I have it ready to go here first if you're ready, or one of you guys can go first.
I can go first. That's fine.
Sure.
So this is a very unique card in hockey history. And I honestly believe in all my years of collecting, this is the only hockey card made that actually shows an NHL fight. And this is a 1973-74 O-Pee-Chee Phil Roberto card. And you will see the refs are breaking it up. You have a jersey over the head and a fist on top of the ref's shoulder that's coming over the top, looking for a place to land. So in all my years of collecting hockey cards, this is the only one I have ever seen that has a fight. Fighting and the NHL have gone together since the beginning of the sport. It doesn't play as much of a role as it used to today, but it's still part of the game. It's still allowed, and the fans definitely encourage it. But the NHL actually, I think, from what I was told once, that the NHL has said cards like this are not allowed to be made because they don't want to promote this in the sport. So you will never see in your lifetime a hockey card made in modern times with a fight on it because the NHL does not want that shown.
Yes. And we will showcase when we get to the community post, we will show off the cards. So you will actually be able to see the cards when you decide to cast your votes. So you will get a chance to see that. So that is Eric's submission this week. Again, it's silly cards or fun cards. It can be open-ended, open interpretation, whatever you prefer. So, Brandon, do you want to go second here?
Looks like if you want to share the screen there, I can explain mine. So
please describe what we've got going on.
There's two cards. Yeah, there's two cards here on the screen. Obviously, I've been back to collecting the Nationals and stuff, and James Wood prospect got called up. I guess it's been probably a month and a half, 2 months ago now. But I've been collecting him in his Fred Nats uniforms, the Fredericksburg Nationals. It's the minor league team right up the road from me. And I thought it was, I've said I want cards that have good images or meanings or whatever. And those have been pretty reasonable to pick up. He doesn't have rookies yet. I know when his rookies come out, they're going to probably be pretty pricey. So this has allowed me to get some things in my collection that I appreciate, But we talk so much about the photoshopping of cards and, the whole Brady thing. And then you go into the licensing thing and all of this. And it seems that at times, dependent on the license and this, that, and the other, the value of the card, varies. But the truth is, and I've had this thought about like the first Bowmans and stuff, these guys aren't even really in those uniforms that you're picturing them in most instances. So I found these two, and obviously this is the same image. This is just a closer up, and they have him in what appears to be a Fredericksburg Nationals uniform, whereas this one, it's, the full body image, and they have him in his Pro Nationals uniform. And I actually was interested in buying this one because I think it's the only card from the Fred Nats that I don't have of him. However, upon closer inspection, I noticed he's wearing a damn San Diego hat. So this was a clear oversight by whoever was doing the photoshopping, because on this one, they actually did a pretty good job and detailed it with the hat that would go with this uniform. So they did a good job on this one. But on this one, they have him in his Padres hat because that's the team he originally was drafted by. So this actually turns me off on this card.
They kind of messed up the glasses on the left image, though. He literally just tore off part of the glasses.
Yeah, it was just like, the right here, the nose piece.
It's like it's literally got taken out in order to make it work.
Yeah, to put that W on there. Yep. But yeah, I mean, like I said, this is more of a personal thing, but I have been trying to collect him, and I've been buying him in his Fredericksburg Nationals uniforms. Here's a couple versions. Here's one, and the truth is, a lot of these may even be photoshopped, but they're well done on them. And when I seen that, I was like, why in the hell would I want him with a San Diego? Like, it's one of those things when you notice it, it's just going to sit there and eat at you. And so I was like, nah, I guess I'll just pass on that one. So I just thought it'd be a fun one to share.
But if that's a dollar card, for example, I'd probably want it just for that.
Yeah, it's very cheap. It's probably sub $1 in most cases, but it was just like, and I think the point more to it is we get so involved in licensed rookie, this, that, and the other. And in many cases, those images, like, they're doctored images. In many cases, I'm not saying all, but in many cases, like, especially on them prospect cards or the rookies and stuff like that, they're doctored images. So it's like people are putting a higher value on something that has literally just been photoshopped. So it's just kind of funny how the hobby itself gets so ingrained in needing these logos and this, that, and the other. They're just photoshopped. So
indeed. So what I'm going to share for mine, and this is something very important, and I'm going to make a commitment to folks that we're not going to lean on this crutch too often. But in this case, I came across this, and I felt it was just. I felt it was worthy. So I am going to go wade into the pool of the custom cards, because as I said, custom cards can be all kinds of things to all kinds of people. So you don't want to go. It becomes a bit of a crutch. You don't want to use it all the time. But in this case, it fits a couple different things that we've talked about in the past. If you go back, not this past week's episode, even though this past week's episode was excellent, go check it out. It was a classic old school length episode because we had a lot of stuff going on. We talked a lot about Fanatics Fest on that one as well, including with people that were at Fanatics Fest. So you can check that out. But this one in particular touches on one of Eric's favorite athletes, one of the greatest athletes of this or any other generation, Raygun. from Australia.
Historic athlete.
Oh, yeah.
Historic, truly historic. True, it could not be more historic. Not only the first zero, but like probably the only zero because the sport has been taken out of the Olympics. So the point is, this is hashtag GOAT status is what this is. But let me share with you a thing. The thing about custom cards is that I've seen some really good ones. Like you can do custom memorabilia. I've seen, custom Kaboom cards. And they did a good enough job where it looks like the genuine article in terms of the way they were able to do it and get the foiling and all that happening and all that. So there are some folks that are really good at it. So this one is going to be a Venn diagram of Eric's favorite things. It's going to be Raygun, of course, but then it's also going to be an homage to the downtown. And the thing about a downtown is that you have a bunch of disparate elements in the down. Like if you remember what a downtown is, it's got the shine, but it's also got a bunch of elements put together in the image that comprise the downtown. So now you got Raygun and you got a downtown combination. So now let me share the image and we will bask in its glory. So here's what we're going to share. I'm going to share this one with you guys. So of course we got the infamous Raygun here. And it is Paris 2024 Olympics. So look what we got. Look what we got. Let me describe for you, because again, some people are listening to audio. So I'm sorry. Listen, you got to go to the YouTube for this one. But I'm going to try my best to describe this to you. So first, you got Raygun, of course, in a classic iconic pose. And on top of that, you've got a street sign that says Breaking Boulevard with a sign underneath that has a kangaroo. Then you've got the Eiffel Tower in the middle of it. You've got also a second kangaroo on the street. So you've got that going for you. And then scaling the Eiffel Tower is a dinosaur wielding the French flag. And then, if that is not all enough, you've also got Michael Jackson in full Thriller motif as zombie Michael Jackson from Thriller with a very similar pose to what Raygun has going on. There's a lot of things happening here, gentlemen. A lot of things.
All I can say is,
it's incredible. Brandon, when I saw this, I was like, wow, just kiss.
That's definitely a lot going on.
There's so much going on there.
Mm-hmm. But it is correct to a downtown. In a downtown, there's a lot going on.
So this is accurate. Stupid. It's ridiculous and stupid, just like every downtown ever created. Yes, you are correct.
Wow. I still don't know what the deal is with the dinosaur. The dinosaur is the only part that really confuses me. The rest of it I can sort of figure out.
No, because she looks like a T-Rex.
Well, but that's what the Michael Jackson is for. Like the Michael Jackson is the Thriller dance. So like we've got that. I guess. But at least the dinosaur is carrying the French flag. So that's a thing.
Why isn't it the Australian flag?
I was thinking the same thing.
But it's in France, but it's in Paris. Should be the French flag. And he's scaling the Eiffel Tower, so at the very least, he should have the French flag. It seems legit to me. It's really it captures a glorious moment in time.
I think the Black Prism was better. I like
the Black Prism. The Black Prism's great, but Brandon, my favorite part about this is that like I said, you've got a dinosaur, you got two different kangaroos on it, and you got Michael Jackson doing Thriller, and zombie Michael Jackson specifically.
Yeah, the best one,
because he's already a zombie by the time he's doing that part.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So listen,
and
I appreciate.
I want to reiterate again. Full disclosure. That was hilarious that I mentioned the triple auto and you actually found one on the page, because I had no idea that existed. It was just, we were sitting here having that conversation about the basketball one. And I said something about, what was it? The Wembayama 101.
Yeah.
Because there was like a bounty out for that one. And then I was like, well, let's just have some fun with it and go with the 3 memes from the Olympics. What would it do versus the basketball? And then you're like, oh, you mean like this? And I was like, holy hell, somebody already had the idea. So that right there kind of shows it should exist.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Multiple people had the thought of it. It should be a thing, right? I'm not saying it's a good thing, but
Eric, Leaf has failed us in so many ways in terms of doing decency. But Eric, is this not what Leaf should exist for? Is that not like the thing that Leaf should be like? Leaf should be like This is what we've been put on this earth to do. This
Yeah.
is our thing. They should be all over
And
this.
I wonder if they went, and not to get too deep into this subject, but I wonder if Leaf took these situations and actually used them as print on demand in a similar scenario like Tops Now is doing, how much revenue they could create. Because I think it would probably be pretty good.
I would think so.
Well, they've already
Just-
tried to capitalize on memes as it is, but like it's a triple auto with 3 memes at the same time, like hitting right at that. Again,
And the
timing
Olympics.
is everything. Timing is
Yeah.
everything because you would have had to have that out. You should have already had that out the door. Getting it out the door was key in this situation because you don't have a big window. Because no one will give a crap
Or-
about the Olympics like now. Already, we
Right.
don't really care about the Olympics. But Raygun is
Or
forever. Raygun is a guy.
they
Is an
sh-
icon.
They should have been on the phone, getting the deals done, mocking the cards, putting them up for pre-sale,
Mhm.
and giving like an expected ship date, and then going and getting the stickers or whatever signed. Like there was
Before
ways
the
they could have
Olympic
done it.
torch, before the Olympic torch left Paris, you should have already been
Yeah.
on this. Exactly. 100%. Like if you're going to do it, you got to capitalize on it. You got to make it happen. So one quick side point before I get into it. So actually 2 quick things. I want to share a quick card that I picked up, but also I want to say from the last episode, which was kind of funny, even though like I've got a little thing where it shows me the charting and everything. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Chartable. It is for the audio version of the podcasts. So Chartable is basically what it sounds like. It's the charts for different podcasts and different categories and everything. Occasionally I'll get an email where it says one of the episodes charted somewhere obscure. I've had some fun with it, but this past episode 89, actually charted in Canada, in my home country. It charted. We were 184th. Episode 89.
Whoa,
Let's
hell.
go.
We're top 200. I mean,
In Apple Podcasts and Canada Hobbies, we got there in the 200. Eric, we are the 184th most watched in that week.
we got to get on the Australian charts this time. I mean, literally, like
Brandon, you know what it would be like. You know, it would be like the glory, and it will happen one day because God is a trickster. One of these days, Eric, we will chart in the Netherlands. It will be the Dutch hate listening. It will be the Dutch hate listening to try to key in as I continue my war with the Dutch. One of these days, I'm watching you, Dutchman. I'm watching you, Bert Blylevin, and all the rest of your kind. I'm watching you.
Hall of
I
Famer.
see you.
Hall of Famer. Bert Blylevin. Because
Yes. And
That-
Xander Bogarts, too. Don't think I don't. Don't think I don't. I'm watching y'all. I know this. It's happening. Yes. But yes, the war with the Dutch continues. But let's move on here. Quick one thing I wanted to share. I love when a random card crops up because I've talked about it in the past. Our good friends at Comsi, I ended up picking it up on eBay because I wanted to have it shipped to me. I picked up one more card from that late 90s grouping. So I'm slowly scratching some of these off. There are obviously some expensive ones, but this one, I'll show this one because it's a good kind of 90s thing for the hockey guys. It's good kind of a quick reminder. I don't know if you guys remember these. Crash the Game from Collector's
Yeah.
Choice. So you've got a lot of the different versions of it. In this case, for this year, you had 3 different dates. But depending on what happened, you could have the winner card, but then you have the bonus cards. You have a silver bonus and a gold bonus. And for whatever reason, the gold bonus is the one that evaded me. There was one on eBay, but it was way too expensive. Like somebody was asking for like $70. I'm saying that like it's Collector's Choice from like 1995. What are we doing here? This one's still too expensive. This one's still too expensive, but much cheaper than that, which is good. So I was like, okay, great. So I'm finally able to knock that one off. So right now, that's portion of the checklist is down to the like 63, 64 cards thereabouts.
No.
Which is pretty good. So we're definitely making some progress.
Speaking on the 90s and the Insta stuff, and I'm just going to throw this out there because that was a reminder of this. Did Stadium Club have the super team redemptions for hockey like they
Yes.
did?
They had super team. They
basketball?
had super team cards. Yeah, for sure.
Well, was it like basketball where if you had the team that won, like, say, the Stanley Cup, you could send the card in and then get the sets for like the conference championship and the Stanley Cup finals, and they would have like the special like final stamping on it, because that's what they did in the NBA, and it just made me think of it when you showed that. I wondered if they had it.
I don't remember if they used a similar redemption program, but they definitely have the super teams 100%. And there's not a lot of them out there. So it's one of those things where I would expect that maybe there was a similar redemption type program, but the specifics escape me. But I know for a fact they did have the super teams escaping 100%.
I just those were always cool to me. I ended up, it was bittersweet. I had the Rockets card the year they swept the Orlando Magic, and being a Shaquille O'Neal fan and a young lad, I really wanted Shaq to win the title, but at the same time, I had that super team card, and I really wanted that set. And so I did get my set, and it was a pretty cool thing they did back then. That'd be something cool if they brought back, where they did those, that type of thing. If you had the card that of the team that won, you could get a special limited set. So
I think that'd be kind of fun. It's one of those things where I'd like to see them try a couple of similar. We got to use some of the old gimmicks. It's one of those things where the opportunity is there. If they want to try to have separate it out a little bit and try to have some fun with it, you could try incorporating some of those. Although it did make me laugh, kind of quick, unrelated. It made me laugh that I was watching some people complaining about, I want to say it was the most recent Topps Finest, because the most recent Topps Finest has, common, uncommon, and rare. And,
like
trying
the
to
old
work out
days.
the whole thing with the check. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So they were like complaining about it. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, that sounds like 96 and 97. That's literally what that was.
Yeah.
It was, it was bronze, silver, and gold. Common, uncommon, and rare. It's like, oh, but say like 3 check. It's like, yeah, 3 separate checklists for common, uncommon, and rare. Yeah, And some players are both, yeah, exactly like 96, 97. Like it's the same shit.
Yep.
It's not new. It's not a new concept, but
Topps,
it's fun watching people complain about something that was standard in the 90s.
Yeah, like Topps Gold, class 1, class 2, class 3.
Yeah, exactly. It's been done numerous times. The same concept has been done numerous times. It's not unusual. It's very, again, execution. We can argue about execution, but the point is like the idea. Nope, that's been done before with Topps Finest specifically. Yep, that checks out. That's on brand. It's just interesting that I think what it really comes down to, and that'll be something that we'll touch on. So let's touch on this one now, since I brought it up. It's kind of the idea about twofold. So there's two things. There's the complaints about boxes and gambling, and this will all play into the Fanatics thing, because at the end we'll talk about Fanatics to conclude the episode. But the thing about being Fanatics Fest is that obviously it tries to promote Topps above all else, because that's the brand they own. So that's the one they're going to be promoting the most. But as time has gone on, in this case, we had Fanatics Fest exclusive boxes, which had certain refractors that were only available in those boxes, which again is not an unusual concept. It's been done, the same kind of idea before. But the reality is boxes are way more expensive than they once were. And part of that is breaking. Part of that is just escalating costs in general, because the companies like making more money. That's part of the deal as well. But all these things play together, and unfortunately, it is made for worse and worse and worse value proposition. We touched on this particular topic before, and the thing is, we can both say, yes, that is 100% true. But at the same time, like, you as the consumer then have to take a certain responsibility to say to yourself, okay, if it doesn't make sense anymore, then maybe I shouldn't. Take some ownership of it. Be like, hey, this doesn't make sense for me. I like opening boxes too. But if the price point comparatively to the product doesn't make sense, I'll use a perfect example. I'm a big fan of wrestling, obviously, and I like opening the boxes. I was able to get the AEW boxes at a very reasonable rate. Therefore, I opened a crap ton of them. Even AMG actually had a box of WWE Prism. I was teasing the collector of the scallops about it, but I said, all right, for my morbid curiosity, how much is it? And then he told me what it was, and I was like, ooh. Now, what it was in line with what the going rate is. So it was not wrong. It was not incorrect. And even in the case, Brad on Friday opened up a box of WWE Prism, and he bought it at Fanatics Fest. And the price point that he bought it there at was like $280 US, give or take, whatever. So you can translate it Canadian. You can pretty much figure out where the price point is in Canada. Most places are doing about $399. So $400. This is a Prism product, so I guess that's not to be expected. But $400 what do you have to pull to not feel like you got absolutely demolished? Because these are big checklists. These are big checklists. And I'm very familiar with the product, even though I don't watch WWE anymore very much. I still am up on the characters. I'm up on the rosters. I can name off who most of these people are. I know who they are, but a lot of them are not going to hold value. Even if you get it in color, you're getting a bunch of color in a box. So it's one of those things that isn't going to cover you. Maybe if you pull a gold prism or something of a good character, sure. A good autograph, maybe, because you're getting a couple autographs per box, sure. But there's a lot of stuff where it's like, ooh, oh. I watched a lot of breaks. It's like, ooh, ah. You just recoil and you just avert your eyes. Don't look. But that's the norm now on a lot of products. Well, it hurts, Brandon, when that is $400 a box. Or if you want to say American dollars, $280 a box. It hurts. It hurts. You buy a couple of boxes, you're in $500. And what if you get smoked on both boxes? That is totally normal. That can totally happen, 100%. And you're 500 in and you got nothing for your value.
I think one of the biggest things that has changed relatively in the last couple of years, coming out of the pandemic boom. For one, you mentioned you've opened you opened a 2018 hobby, if recollection recalls, of
For the Prism, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if my memory serves me well, those boxes in 2018 with a very strong rookie class were $189, I think, for a hobby.
So US wise, yes. So for me, it was like 270 Canadian, but you can tack up, remove about 30%. So you wind up around where you're talking about.
So that was football, one of the sports in general, biggest sports, strong rookie class, and hobby was in 2018 the only way you could get silvers and that sort of thing out of football products. And that was your price point.
Yep. And I didn't pull anything monster, and I can tell you I made my money back.
Because you pulled the Josh Allen base. And that is where a lot of the lopsidedness of the hobbyist came about. I used to open cases, even of like flagship tops, because even if you didn't hit a monster hit, you weren't going to suffer severely on the price, because although they weren't limited, the base rookies and that sort of thing had a value to it, to where you could, whether you sold them raw or if you played the grading game and got them graded and sold them that way, there was a demand for them, and there was enough of a demand that you got a return on them, to where even if you didn't hit a good autograph or you didn't hit a good color or whatever, you had a return there. And you could still
piece value back together. You could piece value together by combining the other cards, even if you didn't hit a monster card.
And you, at the same time, it was still a gamble. I'm not taking that aspect out of it, but you could potentially hit something that you wanted to keep. So in certain circumstances, you were getting that card at a discount, or maybe even free if you hit something nice enough to profit on the product, and then you could keep things. The issue today is you are getting a fraction, like a small fraction, if you were to open most of these products today. And I really think a lot of it is the amount of parallels alone has increased not only the base, but you have more choices out there of a serial numbered option, to where the base has become so watered down and so less desired, because people are in this serial number phase. They got to have that serial number, that the value isn't there. And the price of the product, we just said football was $189 US in 2018. Now I get things have went up, but what is football today? Probably approaching $1,000 a box.
Yeah.
That's a huge increase. And you have to hit something monstrous to even become in that break-even zone, let alone, getting a nice return or wanting to hold things from the product. So at this point, and this is why I just said a few minutes ago, I used to open cases. I hardly open boxes, period, because it became, you mentioned, you have to start asking yourself, when does it become not worth it? And what do you do about it? Well, as much as I enjoy opening boxes, as much as my wife enjoys opening boxes, it doesn't make any financial sense. I can go on and just buy the players for my team or, my PC guys or whatever at pennies on what it would cost me to open the packs and pull them. And you have to start saying, okay, is it fun to lose money at that ratio, at that rate? And the answer is hell no. I don't even buy retail anymore because when blasters got to $30-$40 and yet there was less, they started making it less cards per pack and less packs per blaster, like your return. And again, the base cards are becoming to be nothing of value, really. If you collect, they have a value there, but in terms of financial, the value of the product isn't the same. It just became like, why am I going to do that when I can just go on and get the card I want? And I think a lot of people, I can't say everybody because obviously wax is still selling at a high clip, and there's a lot of people still breaking and all that stuff. So it's out there, but I think a lot of people also at the same time have adjusted what they were doing in terms of opening and have went back to just buying what makes sense. So
I think there's an element of that. And I think what's interesting, and I'll push back to you, Eric, here in a second, but all I wanted to say was just based off what Brandon was saying. I think there is an element of that, and I can appreciate someone who misses the days when you could open the boxes to a certain degree. I do. And again, I've always been very clear about this. I like opening boxes, and we'll touch on the gambling side of it because that's another discussion. But let's finish this conversation first, and then we'll touch on that piece. But the point is that I don't mind gambling myself. I enjoy it. So for me, that aspect of it is enjoyable. I like the fact that you can take a chance because, again, the advice, right? We always give the advice. Look, at the end of the day, if you want to be cost effective, buy the singles. That is the most cost effective, the most logical. Then you get an opportunity to participate in the market. And there's a lot of times where maybe if what you want isn't like super crazy expensive, not only does it make more sense financially, it will save you so much money because you're getting exactly what you want. And the price, and maybe somebody else is frustrated they didn't get a crazy hit. They sell you the card that you wanted in the first place for pennies on the dollar, and you're like, this is awesome. I got exactly what I wanted, and I paid a pittance.
Think of it this way, okay? What does a Powerball ticket cost? $2. And I'm bringing this up because we just mentioned and we're joking around something with Powerball earlier. But a Powerball ticket, I think, is $2. I don't hardly ever play that, so I don't really know. But I think you can buy a Powerball ticket, I think, for $2. And you have a chance of hitting, let's say, 30 million. I don't know what the pot usually is. But imagine if the Powerball ticket then becomes $50 a ticket, but your chances of winning is $20. Or let's even do scratch offs. Let's say all scratch offs start off at $50, but the most common prize you're going to get, 1 in 100 tickets, is going to be $20. Yeah. Well, are people going to continue to buy the scratch offs?
I think the analogy is actually worse than you're saying. My use of your analogy would be that your ticket is $5,000 and like the maximum jackpot is like 30 grand. So can you win? Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
You paid so much.
You're going on the ceiling, but the floor is like is even lower.
Yeah, exactly. So the problem is it costs more to buy said ticket. See, here's the thing: a $2 ticket where I can win $1 million or $30 million or whatever. My odds are ridiculously long, but since I'm in at only $2, that's okay. That I don't, not winning does not bother me because it was $2. That's okay. But when I'm paying 100, 1,000, whatever, using the box example, again, I talk about the WWE Prism. I'll use the Canadian dollars, but you can convert it back to the US, just say 280 US. The point is, I'm paying hundreds of dollars for this box, and I can know who all the characters are. And yeah, I can get a couple bucks for this card, a couple bucks for this card, a couple. But if I'm getting $50 worth of value out of 280 US, and I get 50 bucks back, I just lost 230. With 280 bucks, I could have bought some really good singles. I could have put together a nice little grouping of singles, and I have this tight group of singles, but I could have used the same budget and gotten like a value out of it, relatively speaking. I wouldn't get the satisfaction of opening the box and taking my shot, but at the same time, my price point on the ticket in this case has gone up by so much that, well, now I need to win. Whereas the $2 one, if I win, that'd be amazing. But if I don't, it's not a big deal. Now, well, I gotta try to at least win something, like, or else you're like, this is a complete waste, and that's the part that is annoying.
And as a collector, it's even harder when, like, let's say you're a set collector and you just enjoy building the sets, and you look at it and you're like,
if you're a set collector, then you're deader than Eric after his illness. Like, it's done.
Well,
it's over for you.
Let's assume they exist, because I want, in fairness to the hobby and the collectors out there, I want to say that, give them fairness. Let's say there's people that still collect the sets. There becomes a point when you look at it and you're like, I could just go on ComC or wherever and buy every individual card cheaper than it would cost me for half of this hobby box. And it's like, I no longer want to piece it out that way.
Yeah, that's fair. So Eric, we wanted to get back to where I know you had some thoughts, so feel free to share anything that you want on any of the points we touched on.
Well, I thought my moment had passed, but Brandon just brought up set collectors, and I guess it brings it back. What I was going to say regarding his last comment is that working at a card shop, we see people come in and buy boxes at all different price points.
Mm-hmm.
And many times, still today, the customer likes opening them at the shop, because you got people around you that are cheering you on and, seeing what you have. And you got, like-minded people there taking it in with you, right? So it's part of the fun for some people. And I would say the majority of the time, I don't think I can give you a real percentage number, but the majority of the time, after the box is open, the majority of it is left with us.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even take it. They take what they want, and they say, sometimes they go, "Can I just throw this out here?" And we say, "We'll take care of it." But and now it's got to the point that when someone does that and it's all piled up, because if it's a cheaper box, you'll have piles. If it's a more expensive box, there's 1, 2, 3 cards in it, so it's not really a pile. That I am now asking them presumptually, "Do you want me to take this? Are you taking this home? Or are you leaving this here?" And the majority of the time is, "Yeah, you can keep it." And I get, piles of cards. And a lot of times, we'll go through them real quick just in case, right? Pull out this is in all sports, by the way. Pull out the Celtics, Bruins, Patriots, Red Sox, because we need to keep those in, always around. And we have buckets, tubs, just many, many tubs. And we just keep filling up these giant plastic tubs with cards. And we either sell the tubs off to some people that are interested in that stuff, or we do like $5 grab bags for kids.
Sure.
And it's like, how do you keep, filling these tubs up? And the number one answer, people come in, buy boxes, and leave everything in the box here. And people are like, how can they do that? How do they afford that? I'm just like,
Mhm.
People
Can
my
we
answer is
I
people
know you want
collect
to touch on
in
something
different
here,
ways.
but can I add something to what Eric's talking about? And I think this is a cost versus time question that comes into play with this. And the high box prices also kind of create this as well. And the point that I want to make here is that I've talked about when I did the discussion on the Hamilton card show a couple of episodes ago. What I was specifically saying is that type of show lends itself well to dollar bins or 50-cent bins or something like that, because I think the market, the clientele would actually be very happy to purchase cards for you from 50 cents or a dollar or whatever, and probably take a stack of them off of you. The key is when it comes to a lot of these box breaks, especially if you open a decent amount of boxes, most people do not have a useful way to offload those singles. And because there's so many relative in some of these products, there is some value to it, to the right audience in the right place in the right time. But and Eric's example there from the store with the grab bags, that is a very straightforward way, because in this case the store has nothing into them. Somebody else broke the boxes, so for them they're like $5 grab bag. Yeah, take 100, take 200 cards, go ahead. Because there's no cost in it for them other than to put together the bag. But for the individual who opened the box, who just spent $300, $400, $500 or whatever, the effort required to offload it then for themselves, they don't have the ability to do a $5 grab bag and get it offloaded somewhere. So like they're sitting there on this, and it's basically recycling material. You can't even recycle it. That's the thing with a lot of these cards. You can't recycle them either. You basically have to throw them in the trash. You don't have a choice unless you want to give them away to some kids, or maybe there's a local hospital or something that needs them. Otherwise, you're sitting with all these singles, and you're like, I don't actually want these here at all. I don't want these here. Like, I have no use for this. Oh, but you can build that. But then I got to sort sets. My time has value too. How much am I actually going to get in order to offload that? And that's part of the equation as well.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
the set
well,
builder is dead from what we can see. We have guys coming in, vintage set builders. I mean, I still set build a ton. This whole closet is filled with binders, different years, and I'm working on all of them at the same time. But I don't see people coming in and saying, "Hey, I'm trying to build the new, 23, 24 red, Major League Baseball set." That I
well, it here's my take on that. First of all, the pulling out and getting rid of like probably 95+% of the box, that comes from a couple different things. For one, the breaker culture of things, they're only sending hits. They're not sending you like very few breakers are sending the base cards because that's more sorting, that's more shipping costs, all of that. So these people, if they are part of that culture, they already understand paying for getting a mail day that has like 2 cards in it that they paid for a full team that probably 10 times the amount of cards got tossed than they actually received. The
I
other
know, I
part,
know,
like,
I know what you were actually saying, but my hearing is almost like a Freudian sound. I heard in my mind, I said, they know pain. Yes, they do know pain. They know much
but
pain.
you also like Upper Deck has recently, realigned their pack allocation in the
Mhm.
boxes because they wanted to put more inserts in, right? Because people talk about getting the hits. The thing with those is most of those inserts nobody even cares about either. So it's kind
correct.
of like you're getting the inserts, but they're not inserts anybody really wants. Now, to your point of the set collector, I think we're also in a period of confusion, and we have been for several years. I think hockey collectors, and since that's the market that Eric obviously is engulfed in, and Carlos, you're well versed in the hockey. I think hockey collectors still chase the sets because the way Upper Deck aligns the young guns, there is still a chase element to it
Yeah.
to complete that set with the rookies and those young guns. Baseball, it's absolutely ridiculous to try to piece the set together when you can go to the store and buy the full set, and it's the same damn set that comes out of the boxes, And when you take account the cost of the boxes, it's kind of pointless. And as Carlos said, then you have to sit there and piece them all together. And they're the same identical cards. A lot of people get that confused. Football and basketball, nobody knows what the hell the flagship sets are for those sports. Panini and like those two sports have never came to the conclusion, is it Prism? Is it Optic? Is it Don Russ?
I think it's
Is
Prism.
it
I'll be honest.
Score?
I think it's Prism. I think Prism I would consider flagship. Like
Well,
for Panini specifically, I would consider it.
but that's my point though. That's a Chromium product, and we normally associate the flagship as the paper, easy to build rookies and all that sets. And in those two sports, the more populars are the Chromium Prisms, expensive, So I think that's part of the issue too, is when we were growing up, we knew we had Topps, Donruss, Fleer, whatever, you could build all the damn sets if you wanted to. And today, there's a lot of confusion out there. And so people say, all right, I want colors, I want serial numbers, I want autographs or the RPAs or whatever. And there's that loss of, I guess, I don't even know the word I want to use there, but standardization maybe is the best sense of it, of what people are collecting.
Okay,
It's
sure.
and also, if let's use the Prism, they have extended these Prism sets so big now. And when we were growing up, you had the players that were playing, the players that were in baseball, they were in the set, right? Today, you get a sprinkling of the players that are in the game today, and then a shitload of veterans. So it's like, especially with the younger age, they might not even know who some of them guys even are, unfortunately. But so there's definitely a difference in the eras and the way things have played out. And maybe with Topps getting it all, we'll see a change. I personally don't believe so. I think we're so heavily involved in the autos and serial numbers and all that stuff. The basic, simple flagship isn't. I mean, hell, for football, Topps is releasing that mishmash product that has like a bunch of different sets for
Yeah,
football
it's
before they ever.
basically it's basically Topps's version of Chronicles.
Right. But that's
Yeah.
what they're coming out with to lead off.
I think it's called
Instead
Composite.
of
I think it's called Composite.
yeah, but they're leading off with that rather than a flagship product, which I think is very interesting.
No, for sure. Look, I think so. This is actually kind of a fun little side topic. Maybe we'll explore this one a little deeper on a future episode because I think it'd be worthy of a conversation. I think what it comes down to is this: when it comes to what you were referring to, I think the genie has already been taken out of the bottle, and this will play into kind of the theme of what I want to talk about here in a second. I'll make the shift over. It is a very interesting topic, but I want to give it time because I think we can have a deeper conversation on this. I think one of the things that happened was, and I've talked about this at length, is that every time there's an innovation in the hobby, we run it into the ground. But part of running into the ground is that we also become accustomed to it. It becomes standard. There was a point at which the autograph insert was this crazy thing because it was so rare and it was so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became more and more common. Same thing would happen with memorabilia. And then one day memorabilia didn't matter anymore. Panini is like, not from any specific game or event. Does it really matter? No, it doesn't matter.
Piece of fabric.
So, yeah, it's a piece of fabric from somewhere. We found it. We raided a sporting goods store and we found some jerseys. So there you go. You get a piece of that. But look, there's no excuse because, like I said, we talk about the hockey, and obviously I'm in Canada, and Eric is in the Canadian Protectorate, so basically the same thing. But
Wow.
the reality is that my favorite one is the set from, I think it was the National Treasures, and it was a Panini one, and it was basically what the name escapes me, but it was the one where they had the little medallion of the Stanley Cup, and it was basically an on-card auto with the little medallion of the Stanley Cup on it. Cool looking card, like aesthetically, it is a beautiful, stunning card. Really, it is. It is still an on-card auto with a hunk of metal attached to it. It is a die cast hunk of metal. Like it's not. But there are cards that have sterling silver, but that is not one of those. It's like it's literally just a hunk of metal they stuck onto the card, and they've got an on-card auto. And go look at what they sell for. When the fact is, you can just make a small tweak and suddenly quintuple the price. You don't need to work that hard. But it also means that the base card loses a lot of its appeal. Because to your point, let's be realistic about this. Even if for some reason you were a set collector, why? Because you could go and all you got to do is go to a couple of those breakers. They'll sell you the damn set for pennies on the dollar anyway, because they're sitting on so many of the damn things. If they don't throw them in the garbage, they'll sit there and like somebody will sort through them and go like, all right, we got like a bunch of these sets, like $10, you can have the set. Because
Well,
like, why bother?
I bet they trash them. I bet
To
there's
take it a step further on that, there's not a lot of breakers that do these sets that people are building or breaking the products that people are building these sets of. Many of the products that are designed and released today are done with the breaker in mind. That's why we have these one card boxes. That's why we have the National Treasures where it's 8 cards in a box and most all of them are autographs. That's why we have Flawless. That's a little briefcase with, some one touches in it and then a box with a few more cards. Most all of this stuff is designed for the breaker so they can push out the product because that's where most of it is being ripped. So as nice as it is for those that enjoy the simplicity of the flagship sets, those are kind of a thing in the past, I guess. Look at SP Authentic. It's not even the upper echelon in hockey, but it's a simple set to open a box of, and it has a sought after card, which happens to be an autograph. So, that's another thing that these manufacturers have done. They have built a lot of these sets, they've built a lot of these products to be breaker minded, and that unfortunately also has affected the price. So you get more breakers, you get more product moved, they can charge higher prices, and it just flows through the ecosystem. You get higher price slot machines.
You do. I think it's interesting though, and this is again same vein. Maybe I'll jot a couple of these down, and we'll revisit this conversation because one of my long-standing theories, because obviously the first thing that a lot of folks will throw in their suggestion, well, ban the breakers, and then that'll bring down box prices. It might, but let me offer a counter theory to this
It's going to
concept.
raise the singles.
You could, but let me just throw something at you, and we'll workshop this. But I'm just going to throw this at you for now. We'll percolate on it a little bit. So, Eric, as a man, I am a man of peace. However, I have been known occasionally to allow my mind to go to the darker side, to the evil. I do enjoy a little bit. I do like to venture it, and I got to be honest with you. If it was me, and they said, Carlos, we're banning the breakers, and I'd be like, okay. So what are you going to do? Well, all you got to do, again, you ban the breakers, right? So that should bring down box prices. So your theory goes because you're consuming less of the supply. So why not just cut back the supply until the supply gets to a point where it meets the demand, and then the box prices end up where they were before anyway. We took the breakers out of the equation, but we still got the box prices right around where they were before anyway, because all I got to do is just cut back supply far enough. As a manufacturer, it costs me less. I have to spend less time at the printer because I just cut back the printing a whole bunch. So you thought you were getting $100 boxes. No, you're still getting $400 boxes. But the good news is there's less of every card. I fixed it, right? It's a supply demand curve because you can work the supply demand both ways. If there's too much stuff, that brings the prices down on average, is what it should do, quote unquote. But if you say, oh, if there's still demand and people still want this product, and I just cut back on production a lot, then the breakers are gone. Okay, so now there's more supply. No, not really. The supply is still really low. So actually now you guys can fight amongst yourselves for the boxes, but now there's just less boxes. So if you want to break a box, you're still going to have to pay $400.
But I think if the box price stayed the same with less supply, that wouldn't be as bad. I think what happened is the supply has grown so high that paying, like we were discussing earlier, paying those box prices, you're not getting the value out of them.
Oh, I
If
agree.
they are a much more limited supply of it, then and we still have the same demand, your value is going to be different out of those boxes.
I 100% agree with this. What I'm saying, I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with this. The only point that I'm making is that the people that are saying eliminate the breakers, their theory is that this will in turn lower box prices. Their
No,
theory is that we can roll back and put the genie back. We can put the toothpaste back in the tube, Eric. No, we
Easy.
can't. That's actually not true. There's a very simple way to resolve this issue, because if you remove the breakers, you've reduced demand. Well, if my old fashioned, again, it's been a long time. I'm a little rusty. It's been a long time since I've done supply demand curves, but I believe that all you got to do then is just cut back the supply. You bring the supply down enough, you can get the price back up to that level and maintain it. And in reality, as a manufacturer, then you say, okay, I'm not doing the breakers anymore. Fine. Then I'm going direct to consumer. So my margin actually goes up. So I've cut down on the amount that I printed. Also, my time at the printer has been reduced. So I've reduced cost. And I've gotten rid of the middleman. The wholesalers are out. The breakers are out. I'm going to go direct to consumer. So my margin is higher. And I'll actually cut back on supply, which allows me to maintain and justify higher box price, aka the current box price, but with way less supply. So the people that wanted the $100 box are still not getting a $100 box.
I'll even go further and say, if that was the case, and like I said, the value inside the box gets more valuable because the product becomes more limited, you're actually going to cause an increase of the box price
On the secondary market,
because
yeah.
people are going to see the secondary market of the value of the cards, and then you're going to get more people wanting to spend the $400 on the box to open to hit because the value inside of it. So you're going to screw the whole ecosystem, and it's going to go up even further. So
That it's one of my favorite things in the world, Eric. It's basically the hobby's version of gas prices. Because whenever people complain about the gas prices, which by the way is a real thing, like it's true, gas prices go up all the time. But the theory is always, oh, but it's the taxes on the gas. It's like, no, the gas companies want the price to go up. If you suddenly reduce the taxes to zero, then the price would still go up. They just have to come up with it. It's good to have an excuse, but they'd raise the price anyway. Like it doesn't matter. As long as you're a captive audience that needs this, we're still going to raise the price. But it's good that we have an excuse, because then you'll blame that guy instead of us because we just wanted to raise the price anyway. But the manufacturer's the same thing. We want to raise the price anyway. But if you guys will blame somebody else, Eric, if you guys will blame the breakers, this is great. We love the breakers because then you blame the breakers. We wanted to raise the price either way. Doesn't change anything, but it gives us a scapegoat. We can point out, oh yeah, it's the evil breakers. That's the reason why your box prices are. No, it's because we wanted to raise the box prices anyway. But it gives an amazing excuse.
In a capitalist society, which United States and Canada both are, every single company wants to make money. I know this shocks some people.
not all of them.
I've watched enough
hobby,
YouTube videos, Eric, that apparently this is a new concept. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Some people don't think companies should make money. And there's lots of different discussions about that recently, but they're going to do exactly what you're talking about. It could be a small business that's doing just enough to keep the lights on, or a multi-billion-dollar company that's screwing the consumer over to pay for a new yacht. But that's their job, is to make money and get the money out of your back pocket and into theirs. That's the job. And they don't really care how it gets done, as long as in the end they end up with your money.
I think something too that we all like I don't think it's discussed very often, but in the 80s and 90s where most I think I would say a good portion of the people within the hobby kind of draw themselves back to as the good old days, right? Where
Sure.
things were pure and we were innocent younglings, enjoying this as an innocent hobby. I think there's something to look at with it because I do believe in those times it was more of a hobby, especially to us. In today's society, with the internet, with the ability to freely go on and sell items or whatever, it has transitioned into more of a business. And that's where the money side comes in. That's where
Mhm.
people, like as Eric's saying, their job, their purpose is to make money.
Yeah.
And so people want to live in this era and believe it as to be a hobby, but it's changed. And it is more of, I don't want to say necessarily corporate, but it is now more of a business space than it is a hobby space.
And I just want to remind people, most of us know this, the history of all this. Cards were a scam, people. They were a scam to sell bubble gum.
Are you using the term "were" as in past, or can we
No,
just?
no, the cards themselves were a scam, an incentive, a trick,
An advertisement,
an advertisement to sell bubble gum, tobacco,
baseball gloves, bats.
whatever. Okay, they were the add-on. They were the incentive. They wanted kids in the 50s, for example, that loved Mickey Mantle to get Mickey Mantle things, and they knew if they went after this bubblegum company, Tops, they might get some Mickey Mantle stuff and they get bubblegum. It's how awesome is that? So this, it just historically, remember, the cards themselves were the extra. It wasn't about selling cards. It was about selling bubblegum and tobacco. And
These are a
now,
great example. They were spit out in department stores when you like got on the scales or what. Like there was a little weight. This was from Rexall. You go into the Rexall store and they were spit out of like scales, old scale cards.
I love that one. That one's awesome. So what I'm saying is it was a hobby because you were buying bubble gum and then you had these bonuses. It's like when we used to our parents would buy cereal and we'd get cards in them or toys or whatever. That was the bonus. That was the mom pulling on the apron strings. I want Lucky Charms this week because they're running a promotion on, they had baseball cards in them. So it was a hobby to collect those things, while the main goal was for the companies to sell cereal, sell tobacco, sell gum, whatever. Now it's just the cards. The cards are the business. You guys, am I making sense? You following me? My history lesson correct? The cards are the
I'm
business.
just shocked that you're trying to discuss it as history, even though, like, I'm sure you told your mom that you wanted Lucky Charms like last Thursday.
I
But
swear
I
to God,
appreciate, your story.
I swear I've never had Lucky Charms in my life.
Oh, this is. Hold on. You said, hold on. I'm going to move on from this, but on Friday, I assure you, Brandon, I will come back to this. All I'm going to say is Eric has said a lot of offensive things. I am extremely offended right now.
Never
He
had
is a
them.
man of
That's
peace.
pretty
He
bad,
is,
Eric.
as a man of
Like
peace.
we can get some of the things that you don't want to eat like the fast
So many
food or
things.
something like that.
So
have.
many
But
things.
to not, you better show up Friday with a big ass bowl
No.
of Lucky
Brandon,
Charms.
Brandon, I am going to interrogate Eric while eating a bowl of Lucky Charms. I'm going
Never
to
had
buy a box of
No.
Lucky Charms so
No,
that I
they
can
don't
have a
even look
bowl
good.
of Lucky Charms,
No, they don't
and I
even
will
look
eat it while interrogating Eric. Something to look
No.
forward to for Friday
That's
for folks that are tuned in.
shoot.
Oh my
No, I'm
goodness!
good.
All right, we will move on. We'll move on from your crass mistake. We're going to move on for a moment. Yes, in general terms, we get your point. So look, all I want to say is I want to move the conversation along a little bit here. So we'll get to kind of our final points here. But bottom line, yes. The reason why I want to bring it up is because it has been, again, a renewed topic of discussion, as it always is. Unfortunately, just to simplify things and make it really easy, high level, the manufacturers are not your friends. Companies are not your friend. They've never been your friend. Their job is to get money from you. By the way, here's my take. That's okay. Your job as the consumer is to be aware of that and to act accordingly. If the product is something that you want, if the product is something that is useful to you, if the product is something that enriches an element of your hobby life or life in general, great. If it does not, then exercise your right to vote with your wallet and say, this does not work for me. This is not cool.
Like Lucky
You
And
have
Charms.
it's
that right.
okay.
You still
I
have that
will-
power. I assure you,
I
still
will
have.
not buy Lucky Charms. I have that power.
God damn it, Eric!
I-
Stop being a Philistine.
I just want to say on a personal level, and as Carlos said, and we discussed this before going in, and to put a button on this, we discussed the whole saying that is floated around all the time. If you want something fixed or you want something done or you don't like the way something is, speak with your wallet. And people say that all the time, but they don't practice it. And I may not do as much content as I used to do, but and people may think that I'm one of those that quit the hobby. I haven't, bought a ton of cards like I used to during the boom. I don't think any of us really has bought like we did during the boom. But I will say I took a pause and I've discussed it. I took a pause. I reevaluated where I wanted to be, what direction I wanted to go, where I had the most fun. And I am having more fun right now in the hobby. I am buying cards. I just got some in. And my collection is a lot more enjoyable. But I'm not spending the $1,000+ on opening a case. Was that fun? Did I enjoy it? Would I enjoy it if it was still the same way? Absolutely. Is it the same way? Do I feel it is financially smart? Absolutely not. And I like to make or attempt to make good decisions. And so that's one of the decisions I have made.
There you
You
go.
made
I think
one
that's fair.
good decision your entire life, and she's in the other room.
She will appreciate that.
There you go. Bold move. I like it. I like it. All right. So kind of put a button on that, kind of to what Brandon is saying. Look, all I got to say is this.
It's but a
This
scratch.
gives me joy. This right here. This gives me joy. This is a Magic the Gathering card. They did what they call secret layers. They did Monty Python and the Holy Grail. This is greatness. This is what I want. This is all I needed here. This was a purchase that I do not regret in the slightest. That was a recent purchase.
Yeah.
You need a custom card, but with Fish Boy on that.
Oh, I think it'd be awesome. Listen, I already had my fun with my AI, but listen, it's well, I don't know if you remember when we started playing around with the AI. I did a thing where I tried to have him fight the Black Knight. I don't remember if I still have the picture, but I had him one try to
I
fight the
remember.
Black Knight. Yeah, but that's actually from the Monty Python thing, and I was like, this is awesome. I didn't know it was even a thing. Brandon, it's fun at this stage, pushing 35 years in, when I can come across something random like, wait, that's a thing? I want, need. And that was like 15, 20 bucks. But I enjoy it. Like, to me, that's totally worth it. 100% worth it, because I'm going to get so much enjoy. I'm going to put that in the background of my thing when I do my videos. That's an awesome card. It's going to get a place of honor on the table when I do my shit, and it's going to be awesome. But the point is to put a button on this whole conversation. You got to find whatever it is that gives you the enjoyment. All this time in, again, all the money stuff we're talking about, it's all true. boxes are too expensive. It's gambling, which I'm about to get into right now. It's all true. But there are still places where you can find enjoyment in this hobby. And if you can figure out what that is, do you have an idea how much lighter it makes you when you that's why you can do this, all these episodes, all the live streams I do, and still all this stuff's going on. It's like none of it bothers me in the least. I really don't care because I can find a card of the Black Knight from Monty Python that says Tiz Buzz Scratch. I can find a custom card of Raygun with Michael Jackson from Thriller for reasons.
I can find
There you
funky little stuffed animals.
No, that's wrong.
And now
No,
we need to get Eric in on the Lucky Charms because, God damn it, they're magically delicious.
I don't support that.
They
type of thing.
are. And
That's
tricks
what
are
I'm
just
saying.
for kids, Eric.
Oh man,
Never had one either.
you're very. No
I'm
wonder
not
you're a
going to
sad,
suggest them, but
sad
you
man.
gotta eat Lucky Charms.
Wait a minute,
You
tricks.
know what happened? You
Oh,
know
tricks.
what happens?
No, tricks I've had. Tricks I think I've had.
What?
Do you know
I
what?
think
You know
I
what
have-
happens to people that do not have Lucky Charms? They get bronchitis. All right, they
Oh,
get
is
bronchitis.
that why? I
That's
also
why.
Yes, because you're not getting the.
I've
the
had Lucky Charms and I do not have
scrumptious nature
bronchitis.
of the
never-
marshmallows.
I've also never had Captain Crunch.
You're fired.
You-
Can we just boot him?
you, Eric, you're hired and then you're fired.
I've told you before. I've never been to a Taco Bell, and I've been to a Wendy's once.
I'm so way more offended about the.
And I got
Lucky
chicken
Charms
nuggets.
than
I'm not worried about the cereal. Is more important.
the
There's
cereal, like that
issues
bothers
with the cereal.
You are aware we have associated to Bob Lewis before. Like he is a cereal connoisseur. Like this is offensive on multiple levels.
Yeah.
No Captain Crunch and no Lucky Charms. Like
And Captain
No.
Crunch, listen, man, I lived on Captain Crunch back in the day.
And I've never
Bro,
had any of the. I've never had any of the monster cereals either.
okay, well, the wonderful woman that you just spoke of, you just lost points with her because
yeah,
that
no, totally. Yeah, look, Eric's
that's
lost
her
points with almost
favorite from
everyone's
her
lady
childhood. Like
decency.
I
her
didn't say anything
grandfather
bad
used to
about 'em. I
ship
said I
her
never had 'em.
some when she was a kid.
I didn't say anything bad about them. I just said I have never had them.
Have you considered, Eric, that maybe all
Have you
your
had cinnamon toast
misfortune-
crunch?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
So, Eric, have
All
you
at
ever
least we
considered
got
the
that.
possibility?
Cookie Crisp?
Have you considered?
No.
All right,
And you
Eric,
love freaking cookies.
That's true. It is a fact. Exactly, you jerk. All right. So see, now we got derailed on this cereal topic. But the point is this is 100% a Friday conversation would totally happen. But the point is this. Eric, have you ever considered the misfortunes you have in life may be directly correlated to your lack of culture in cereal?
I'm starting to think maybe.
Like, I'm just saying, like, that's a lot of lack of culture. It's like just throwing it out there, folks. Something to consider and something to do. All right, Brandon, we're gonna move on. Last topic. Let's touch on one more
Okay.
topic and we'll wind her down. Okay. So let's finish up with this. So we already talked about the cost value proposition. Okay. One of the reasons it also came up is because obviously Fanatics' emphasis and the way they've done it at the Fanatics Fest and other things they've done is to try to push towards the idea of breakers, to try to push toward the idea of unopened product, to try to push forward the idea of it. And we've got a renaissance of people that have started suddenly getting really worried again about gambling. So I guess to lead off, I'm going to remind everybody that boxes have had odds on them for a long time. The thing about odds is it means it's a gamble. People are opening them to try to pull the chase card. That is not a new phenomenon that started recently. It is not a pandemic thing. It goes back a very long way now, decades, literally decades, plural, going back a ways. And almost every case is. So I want to touch on that, but also I want to give an example, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago as well. Well, last week. And I'll remind everybody that although this isn't a box, the principle is the same. And I'll kind of share exactly what we're talking about. So we talked about the infamous Olympic men's basketball card. So we had the infamous triple card with Curry, LeBron James, and Kevin Durant. And obviously, this is a situation where you're ordering a singular card from Topps now. However, there is a draw to this because you can get, and they sold 588,030 cards of this. How could they sell 500,000 cards of this? Almost 600,000 cards of this? Because you can pull one of several different parallels, and or the possibility is there, remote as it is, that you could get this one-on-one triple autograph, which has been the source of several bounties. But just to put this into perspective, because I did a quick little maths, Eric appreciated this. I did some quick maths. But the thing is, if you add it up, I think it came out to, I want to say 386 cards. If you add up all the different parallels that you can potentially pull. So 386, again, round it up to 400, just to make the numbers even. Okay, round up to 400. 588,000 cards. There are 400 cards that are not just base. If we take into account those parallels and if we take into account that 1 of 1. Are the odds remote? Super remote. Super duper remote. It's less than 1 in 1,000. Like 1 in 1,000. If you buy one, you've got a less than 1 in 1,000 chance of getting one. But that by definition, you purchased a single. You purchased a single card. You will get that. But there is a possibility you could get something else. There's a possibility. But by definition, now we know what the odds are, because now we know what the final print run ended up being. But guys, that is gambling. It's a lottery ticket. You purchased a lottery ticket. You had a flat fee in this case to get in. You could have bought more if you wanted to. You could have bought multiple tickets in this case, if you wished. And you could have gotten a discount if you bought in enough volume. But the point is still the same. It's still a lottery ticket. Is there a chance you could pull something amazing? Is there a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for somebody? Yep. And for some of these parallels, by the way, those parallels, several of them will hold value as well. Not to the same degree, but they'll hold some value for sure. But the point is this. That's gambling. Regular boxes today, they have odds on them. That's gambling. It's been gambling, first thing. Now, I guess my question is twofold. Why are we acting like this is a new phenomenon now, number one? And number two, why are we suddenly so protective of the damn kids about this? If you want to be protective of the kids, you missed the boat on that, my friend. That boat sailed a long time ago. But also, going back to what we just said a moment ago about finding your joy in the hobby, let me twist it around to the other side of this. How about you take responsibility? Because if you're so worried about the kids, well, if you're the parent, why don't you take some responsibility? And why don't you offer the path to be like, well, it'd be great to open a box of this, but why don't we just go get you, who's your favorite player? Let's go get you some singles. We'll get you some cards of your favorite player. And we'll go with that. You've eliminated them from the equation. It's cool to open the packs and everything, but the reality is you already know it's expensive and you already know it's a gamble. So why don't you just take it out of the equation? You have control over that. Instead of blaming the manufacturer and blaming everybody else, oh, but we got to regulate it. It's unregulated gambling. Instead of worrying about everybody else fixing your problem, how about you fix your own damn problem?
Or
just a thought.
If you want to introduce kids, like I would love to see the hobby continue on and grow and all of this. And again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, where we live in this purest state of the 80s and 90s or the 70s. I wasn't in the 70s, but most of us were at least in the 80s and 90s, where we were young kids collecting, trading, all of this. But the truth is, we were also involved in sports. Like like I played, baseball, football, basketball. A lot of people watched it on TV or went to the games or whatever. Now, that's not cheap anymore either. But as Carlos said, if you want to get a kid, I'll tell you something that is going to get a child attached more than anything is take them to a ball game and let them experience something as a memory. And, let them see that guy hit a home run or a close game that a team wins or whatever, right? That's going to introduce them more to be excited about a team or a player, and then you can take it from there. I think a lot of times the adults are using the children as the scapegoat to play the lottery ticket. If I can get my kids involved because I enjoyed this. And let's also be real, we are in a different era. My kids, the only time they've ever been interested in any of this is when we were going to the minor league games. Like my daughter enjoyed them. My son enjoyed. My son has a collection of a player named Daniel Johnson. He was a Nationals prospect. He got moved to Cleveland. I don't know if he's still playing or not, but my son, that was a player that he got attached to. He got bats, jerseys, he got gloves off the guy. That's like the extent. My daughter, She loves Formula One. Ask that girl anything about F1 and she will know the answer. I didn't introduce her to that. She got into I don't really know much about Formula One, but she loves it, okay? Because she started watching it. She started learning about it. It's not as easy as, oh, let's open this pack and, oh, man, we hit this $10,000 card and that's all of a sudden your favorite player. It's not how it works. They're not going to live off that. And to Carlos's point about the gambling side, and not to go too deep into it, let's circle back around to the cereal boxes. As Eric said, there was prizes inside. You didn't know what
Well, how would
damn
Eric
prize
know?
it
He
was.
doesn't eat 3/4 of the good cereals.
Well, right, but to let Eric know, you
For
didn't
the
know
2 cereals
what
he was allowed
prize
to
was
eat.
inside. Like, that's why we as kids were like, you know, and they would put it down at the bottom. So you had to eat the whole damn box because your mom would spank your ass if you dared put your arm down in there to dig for it. But you didn't know which of those 5 prizes you were going to get. You know, it's always been that thing. The video games, I mentioned this in the Discord. You know, people are looking at it as, oh, Fanatics is, you know, doing this to the kids. Ever watch a kid play Fortnite? Those V-Bucks, those little care packages they can buy and it spins around and they don't know what the hell they're going to get out of it. It's gambling. Call of Duty, same thing. Gambling, like all of that shit. They are exposed to so much of it that I don't even think people realize it is. And I'm not saying this that to make it okay, but it sadly became a part of society. Like so much. The little games on your phones, they're advertising constantly. Buy this, buy this, buy like it's just it's too easy to put. Technology has created so many different ways that gambling exists in our lives. You're exposed to it all the time. The kids are exposed to it all the time.
Yeah. Well, the kind of like it's a silly analogy, but it's the analogy I'll use. It's like trying to protect your kids from sunlight and sending them outside. It's like,
Yeah.
well, you're not really going to be able to defend them from that. Now, it's up to you how you want them to interpret it. It's up to you how you want to look. I'll give you a silly example. Carlos Senior, when we were kids, my younger brother and I. One of the things that happens with, I guess, with a lot of folks is that when you're growing up as a kid, alcohol and things like that are like this mysterious thing. It's like locked away and in whatever. Carlos Senior's approach to parenting was here's the Carlos Senior parenting minute. Here's your Carlos Senior parenting minute. His whole thing was when we were kids already, there would be a beer in the fridge and stuff like that because obviously he had his beers, whatever. But he was always like, he never let it be a mysterious thing. He was always like, well, if you want to try it, I can pour you a little bit. I can pour you a little bit into a glass or whatever. As a result, it kind of took away the whole appeal of it. It was kind of like, okay, it's just there. So when we were growing up, it was always like, well, if you don't need to sneak around, you don't need to go in, hide or whatever, or go steal one from the fridge or whatever. If you want one, I will pour you a beer, or I will let you try it if you would like to try it. As a result, kind of took away any of the forbiddenness of it. And as a result, to be honest, didn't bother touching it until basically I got into school, into college, because there's no reason. And today, like tonight, I'm having this, and I enjoy it on my Friday, but that's about it. We never really got into it beyond just casually whenever we felt like it on an evening or whatever. But it's because there was no mystery to it. There was no like make it into a thing and make it into a bigger thing than it was because it was always open. It was always like, hey, if you would like one, that's fine. But because it was controlled in that way, he didn't allow it to become a thing bigger than it was.
I think you made a point, and I don't remember if it was before or after we got into it, but
before, after the beer, go on.
No, before or after we started recording. But you had made a point at some point tonight of people always look other directions to try to place blame.
Yes,
and we all know what's going on. Like it's not a damn secret. And if you want your kids involved in it, there are ways to allow them to be involved without it having to be that way. The same way we can be involved in it without it having to be that way. But instead of blaming everyone else, you need to direct them on the path of enjoyment without being deterred or you're not going to eliminate the exposure, but without it allowing it to get to the extent that it could be harmful in the gambling aspect, I guess is the best way
Yeah.
to say it.
Yeah. But that's the reason why I use that analogy. That example that I gave was very specific because I said, as a parent, he made a decision to control the ability, the exposure, and also the rules of engagement with it. Because you took away the mysterious element of it, you took away the verboten, lock it away and whatever, and make it into a thing where maybe somebody goes, you're being rebellious or whatever, and you go, by removing that whole thing, it took it away. It just said, like,
I
no, it's a thing.
I have one other question too, and I know Eric has a daughter and a son, and you have a brother and everything. And you're talking about the way your father is. How in the hell would these kids get that much money to buy these boxes anyway? Like, I mean, come on. We were just talking about the cost of the boxes. Like, the parent would have to be involved. Like, am I wrong? I mean, I don't know how the hell they would be getting that kind of money for allowance. But like mowing the grass ain't paying that.
It goes back to, conversations over the last couple of weeks. I remember saying at one point, this doesn't affect us and it's not our problem because, this is a rich person problem.
Yeah.
This is it's out of my price range. It's above my pay grade. I will never ever buy a box of cards for $1,000+. It's just, and unless it's an unopened box of 66 tops or something, and then so I'll give you $1,000.
Listen,
Would you
Eric,
have them
I think
scan
I
it
think you're
first?
underestimating the power of inflation. By the
Yeah.
time, within a couple of years, your cup of coffee is going to be $1,000. So a box is for 1,000. It's not going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
So you get a cup and a box.
You might be
It's
able to
pretty good.
get
Okay, well, I'm about to upset everybody once again because I've never had a cup of coffee in my life.
that. I'm not worried about. I've had coffee. I'm not a fan.
I don't drink coffee.
I don't mind the
I
taste
have
of it. It's
sipped-
just my
I have
stomach
sipped
doesn't like it.
coffee. I've tried coffee. I love the way it smells, but I've
Guess
never.
what? Because you're poor.
I
That's
just
why
felt
I-
like playing that one. I just
Yeah,
felt
I
like
can't-
playing that one. It just felt right to me.
That's not because of coffee. It's I can afford coffee if I wanted to.
I don't know. Starbucks is pretty pricey.
No, no,
Are you sure? Are you sure you can
no.
afford coffee, or is it like dirty water? Is it like if the pipes aren't working in the tap properly?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that what we're talking about?
coffee. That's we love that dirty water. They have a song and everything.
Yeah. What the hell were we talking about before we got distracted by Eric?
We were
By
on the
another one of
path of the gambling and the children, and the thing is
It's rich people problems. The majority of us don't have to worry about this, and we're not spending that kind of money. And then when you were like, where do these kids get it? Well, they're getting it from their wealthy parents who 12-year-old. I mean, especially right after the pandemic and we started going back to shows, everyone was complaining, why is this 12-year-old pulling up to a table with a freaking briefcase that has $100,000 worth of cards in it? Here's my LeBron James gold rookie out of 7. That's a PSA 10. I'd like to either trade you or you can buy it for $75,000. You're 12.
this would be a great future topic.
Spoiled little brat.
How well have the kids done since the shift in the hobby? Like, did they cash out? Did they flip their way up into the smart things, or did those cards go? Phew? I mean, that would be an interesting thing to know.
Mommy and Daddy took care of it. Doesn't matter.
It would
Okay, can I
still be
ask-
interesting.
So look, I think what Eric part of Eric's coin. He made some bizarre statements. Like I'm gonna need to watch this episode myself on replay to fully grasp and get my head around these statements that were uttered.
I am on sick and on many medications.
Eric, I feel like in this conversation, I feel like I'm on meds. I've heard things, and I'm so Brandon. I feel like did I get a contact high from something? I don't even know. Like I think I heard the announcement of Lucky Charms. Like I was like, the cereal conversation threw me for a loop. Man's never drank coffee. Like I'm confused. I'm perplexed. I'm vexed. Like I've got a lot of things going on over here, man. Like it's a tough scene. Like I'm trying to figure out my way through it. We'll get there. Anyway, the point that I wanted to kind of finish on was when it comes to a lot of these things, one is it's not new. Two is that I would very much like, and we always joke about the rules, the infamous rules. This is not a rule, but this is something I would like. This is something that would make me happy. I would really like to see more people who seem to enjoy spending a lot of their time complaining about these things. I would like one of two things to happen. Either complain about something that actually involves you, that you're actually participating in. If you want to complain about box prices and you're somebody that was buying infinite number of boxes before and now the box prices have corrected for you, fine. I'll hear what you have to say because it's very clearly impacted you. I get it. But if you're a person who bought a box once in a century and you're griping about the box prices, then I'm not nearly as interested in what you have to say because frankly, you're not involved in the marketplace that you're complaining about. That's right. You anti-Lucky Charmite. I'm going to deal with you. I'm going to deal with you on Friday. The point is that you don't have a stake in this. So I don't understand why there would be that much energy put into this category. But at the same time, the other piece as well is how about we focus on things where it is out of our control as opposed to things where it is in your control? Because if it is in your control, I'm not nearly as sympathetic because I'm sitting there, you're complaining to me about something you have complete control over. You actually have the power in your hands to prevent the very thing you were complaining about. Box prices are too high, they don't make sense anymore. Fair enough. Don't buy the boxes.
You're losing it.
But after that, our conversation's over.
And walk away.
Yeah, after that, our conversation's over, though. Like, that's it. Like, you've made your decision as a consumer. I accept your decision, and I respect your decision. Now, let us not speak of it again, because there is no reason for us to continue this conversation because we've solved your problem. And worrying about the kids, well, then worry about your own kids. Because apparently,
I got a question.
If you got kids, go ahead.
This is about the kids.
About the kids.
It's all about the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we get together, the three of us, I'm being inclusive,
and peddle things at the kids?
No, maybe we should write a book.
Oh,
I hear those are good. We could write a book.
Okay.
Share royalties.
I'm trying to figure.
Hey,
Eric, I'm kind of wondering where Brandon's going with this. All right, go on.
I'm glad we're
The
not
Card
live.
Collector's Guide to Parenting.
Oh my God.
We could do it as a course. We don't necessarily have to get it published. We could do it as a YouTube course.
Yep.
Memberships $39.95 a month.
Oh, people love courses. Let me tell you, they love
That's
courses.
what I had the idea for.
Yeah. Hey, Eric, how
I'm
did
just
we?
kidding. I'm
Okay,
just kidding.
Look, I get it, but can I ask a serious question? Eric, help me out here. How did we? It's like the saying, like the joke. Every day we stray further from God. I'm not a religious man, but it's like I feel like every day we stray further for 5% more mature. Like we have delved deep into the Friday waters tonight.
We got to get
into
back.
the Friday waters.
We got to get back.
It's Monday. It's Monday, and we're well.
Eric has had a Beckett hat sitting there in the entire show, and we haven't slandered them, so I think we've done pretty well.
We went everywhere else. We ended up with a serial conversation, and we ended up somehow with a book idea. It's an interesting place that we ended up with. So, folks, hopefully you enjoyed. I'm not completely sure what happened in this episode. Like I had a vision. We had an idea where I thought this episode was going to go, and somehow we ended up in a very. We took a wrong turn at Albuquerque, and we wound up whatever we wound up. The only thing I can say is thank you to AMG for supporting whatever this was. I think episode 90, 10 episodes from 100. Could you imagine if this had been live? Could you like it would have strayed so far off course? We would have been in another solar system is where we would have ended up, somewhere out there. We were already heading in that direction as it was. We've just about left the Milky Way as it stands. But anyway,
Hey,
all right.
you did say I wore the shirt because of the phrase you said earlier. You cannot blame me for it. You coined the phrase. I had to represent the shirt. The Darth Bobbles. I'm just.
Your descent into Darth Bobbles is noted. Your descent into Darth Bobbles is noted. It is noted. But yes. So hopefully, folks, you got our general point. Like I said, maybe so. Look, I'll sum it up in this way. I'll tie up in a bow. A lot of the conversation we had tonight, as ridiculous as it became in odd directions that it took, I think it can be summed up in personal accountability. Take some personal accountability for your own business. Again, even our silliness, we'll take ownership of it. We will not take ownership of Eric's slander of Lucky Charms, though. Like that, like we cannot co-sign on that.
Yeah,
like
that can't be.
It's not cool. I don't even want to discuss it. We're not gonna. We cannot. Will not be party to this. We will not be party to this. However, take personal accountability. A lot of these things in this hobby are, believe it or not, way more in your control than you might think. Your enjoyment of the hobby, believe it or not, is very much in your control. You have a lot more say in your enjoyment of this hobby than you might think. And a lot of people don't seem to understand that they have that power and that control. Well, take it back because you can have some fun. I bought that silly card earlier tonight. I think that's awesome. We can find enjoyment in silly cards, in fun cards, in all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be expensive. If you got the budget for it, go for it, but it doesn't have to be. You can find little projects and little things that are enjoyable to you. You might enjoy opening boxes, but guess what? It might be too expensive. And if that's the case, find another lane that works for you. Find something else that you can find enjoyment in. That can still work. And that's something that has allowed folks to sustain. I've still got things at this stage that I still enjoy collecting. And it allowed me to find all these little lanes. And I'm going to enjoy my next mail day and the one after that and the one after that. And I still find items here and there. Try to have some fun. Don't take it so seriously. And I think you will find that it's not so bad. Not so bad. Except for the Lucky Charms thing. That's bizarre. That's creepy. Just no. But anyway, so you can message Sanderson Door and tell him that his cereal choices are crap. It makes him a bad person. You can send that directly to him. I think that would be the right thing to do. Also hit the like button because we got to charge him for his crimes against cereal. That's important as well. So you can do that. You can check out Brandon at Bobbles and Ball Cards. He is a known associate of 540 Flips, so you can check that out as well. So you've got both those places. 540 Flips might be involved in a lot of what happened to Eric. Just throwing it out there. More videos coming up on the channel. Live streams on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This past episode, we had quite the group of people. It was quite the cavalcade of individuals that joined us. And it was a classic old school episode. We went into the deep waters. I wasn't expecting it, but we ended up in the deep waters of an old school length episode. It was quite the thing. So thank you to Andy. She blind with Refractors joined us. Neo Cards and Comics joined us. Brad Hartland joined us. It was a whole cavalcade. Even Brandon joined us. Man. And of course, you had the cast of characters, the Burrell. And I think Eric had some of his best points he's ever had on that episode. You can check it out for yourself. I think that was honestly his most astute contribution. And the like button was hit very aggressively. And Eric is thrilled at the build that's coming. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. Anyway, that's it for us. Episode 90. We'll catch you in the next one.